Hey guys, Farid here, and today I'm going to be doing an overview of my track Sungaze, which was released on DSR under Enhanced Music about a year ago. First, I'm going to be breaking down the track channel by channel. I'm also going to be talking about EQing methods and techniques that I've used in the track. I'm also going to go through how the track came about, which elements came first, how I came up with the melody, etc. And finally, I'm also going to go through the leads, pads, plucks, and basses that I've used in the track and how I mixed them. If you haven't heard the track, I'll just play a bit of it first so you can get an idea of what it sounds like. And I apologize if the video ends up being a bit long, but I hope you get something positive out of it. Alright, so I'm going to play a bit from the intro, a bit from the breakdown, and a bit from the climax or the drop so you can get an idea of what it sounds like. Okay, so this is the intro. I had to stop it before it peaks. So you can see it's maxing out my CPU. Now for the breakdown. Okay, sounds pretty okay. And now the drop, just a bit. Okay, so now you get an idea of what the track sounds like. Sorry about the peaking. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy project. I'm also recording it, so yeah, CPU is on fire right now. Anyways, so yeah, let's start with the kick. Basic VEC3 kick. Okay, so here we have the kick. I really don't know why I used 3 different EQs on it, but that's just how it happened. They each just some bell-shaped curves. Yeah. Okay, so usually I start out with some basic EQing, lightly boost where I like the sound of the kick, and then I'll also do some dips here. Usually I dip every kick that I use. I make a dip on it between 150 and 220 hertz because usually that's where a lot of the boxiness of the kick is. Now you'll see if I play it here. One sec. If I take this up, you can hear it sounds pretty boxy. I take this. I take a lot of the mids out because it balances more with the clap, and it's a bit more light. Doesn't weigh the track down. So I also made a dip in the low end because I felt the low end of the kick was a bit too much, and I also made a dip in the high end because also there's a slight click on the high end of the kick. So it was a bit over for me. It was a bit too much, so I had to take it down for a bit. This one, I kind of did it as I was going in the mix, really. It just came that way. I don't know why I did that. So that's for the kick. I had a high-end click before going with the kick, but I took it off because, as I said, it was a bit too much, so I even ended up taking a lot of the high-end from the actual kick off. So I left that out. I sent the kick and the click to a bus here, which has a final low end dip as well. Also some gain adjustment for the track, a low pass for automations, for transitions, and also a high pass, build-ups, etc. And yeah, also volume automation for the build-up and the breakdown, after the breakdown. And I don't know what this is. Just a second. Okay, yeah, so this is for the intro. So different high passes, different low passes. So basic, pretty basic for the kick. Let's see, for the side chain, I used a different kick. Why? I don't know why exactly, but I guess it sounded a bit short. Usually I like my sidechain triggers to be short. I could have taken this kick and shortened it here. As you can see, it's really short. So yeah, any kick really will do, or even a short sound like a click or a short clap would do. You should just shorten everything, put everything to 0, and the hold usually just above 0. So you can have a short side chain. Same thing again, different side chains for different stuff. I use this for the pad, for the FX, and also this is just the general side chain. So yeah, they're all the same kick I've used for all of them. And now for the hi-hat, let me go just a second. Okay, yeah. So for the hi-hat, for the closed hi-hat, let's start with it because the pattern is first. So for the closed hi-hat, I usually just test out random hi-hats from the packs that I have and see which one fits the track. I used VEC4 for this one, and this is what it sounds like. What do I have on? Just some EQ'ing. I usually tend to have high passes on almost everything that I have because I don't really want the low end, but this is pretty basic EQing. So yeah, I took out most of the low end. Let's just play this. Took out most of the low end. Also did a dip in the mids because I have loops that are playing. With the hi-hats, so these take up usually a lot of the mid-range, and a bit of the high range as well, obviously. And yeah, a little bit resonation here. Yeah, took that out, and I boosted the high end because so it can cut through a bit more. And it's side chained because, as you can see, there's the hat plays sometimes when the kick is playing, so I had to put a sidechain on that. So this is what it sounds like. I also did some panning for each note. So right here, as you can see, this one is to the right, this one's even more to the right, left, and middle. Alright, so this is more of a stereo hat that I've used here, hi-hat. Now, let's see. Yeah, I also used the ride, which I like. I really like rides. I had to shorten the ride a little bit because it was too long for the purpose of using it in this track. So I shortened it for a bit here, and also I panned it. So let's see what it sounds like. Okay, yeah, pretty basic. I also did some panning on it as well from here and adjusted it from here. And again, some EQing. Again, take out the high end, take out a bit of the, take out the low end, take out a bit of the high end, maybe resonating, I think. Yeah, so that's a little bit nasty. And boost for the high end so that it can cut through well and give a good presence for the perk. And now we move on to, okay, the hi-hats. This is the hi-hat combo that I have playing in the track altogether. So this is what they sound like. So as you can see, it's got some mid sound, mono sound, as well as some stereo coming from the closed hi-hat that I've panned, and the right as well. So for the open hi-hat, again, just basic EQing. Now this open hi-hat had a lot of resonating frequencies, which I really don't like having in my tracks, so I usually look for them and take them out on whatever sounds might have them. So for example, this one, yeah. So yeah, this one sounds nasty. This one as well, yeah. And a boost for the high end, again for more presence. Now we move on to the loops. Yeah. All right. So the loops. There's a lot of effects on the loops. First of all, some reverb, light reverb. Made the preset myself. Just editing some basic stuff. Not all the way because then it sounds a little too wet for me. More reverb because this one wasn't enough, I guess. Okay, again, some pretty short settings. Big room, but short settings. Short decay. And some EQing, basic EQing, taking out a lot of the low end below about 200 hertz, because below that is just pointless for loops, to be honest. Some compression to smooth out the loops a little bit, because the transients are a little too strong for the loops that I've used. So help smooth out the transitions a bit. Pretty low threshold, I guess. But the settings aren't too much. As you can see, I've used them for the threshold, low attack, low release, and the gain is set to about 2.5. Again, yeah, these really weren't coming in the mix as well as I wanted them to, especially because they're sidechained as well. Because as you can see, they play all the way, so the kick they might interfere with the kick. So I sidechained them as well. Pretty high strong sidechain. So had to make up for that by making them come through a bit more. And I've used EQ here, like I was mentioning. This was mainly to boost the high mids and the high end of the loops, so they can come through as well as I wanted them to. I don't usually do this type of EQing, but for this I had to go extreme. For the second loop, as you can see, the first loop is panned to the right, second loop is panned to the left. I put some sample delay on it because it helps. Let's see what it sounds like first. Yeah. So as you can see, there's almost no information from the sides coming from this loop. No information in the middle, sorry, coming from this loop. It's mainly on the side. And what this does basically is that it simulates the Haas effect, if you're familiar with that, which is basically taking two instances of the same sound, panning them to both extremes, and delaying one of them by very slightly, by a few milliseconds, to get a very wide sound. It helps fill out the sides, because especially that I have this in the middle, slightly in the middle, not too much. And this panning is just to adjust, because if I take it off, this will actually make the left side a bit louder than the right side. The right side louder than the left side, so I have to pan to the left a little bit to adjust for that. Again, some EQing didn't go as extreme because this loop was going through as well as I wanted it to, so just a slight boost of the high end. Again, I took this off. Again, the basic high pass, taking out the lows. This here is because I felt that a bit of the lows in this area were still coming through, even though I had a high pass here. So I took out, I did this just in case. And Oh yeah, this is just for gain. I think I adjusted the gain from here. What is this? Yeah. Okay, I don't know what this is, but it seems that I've used it for the gain. Yeah. Yeah, I slightly boosted it from here. And again, sidechained, just like the other one, just like the other loop. And let me show you actually what the loop sounds like with this off. So as you can see, it's to the sides with this on, but as you can see, it sounds I think better from the sides. So now we move on to the bus. My hi-hats, I usually group them and send them to a bus. And as you can see, the closed hi-hat is sent to the bus. The open hi-hat is oh, it's not sent to the bus, it's sent to the perk bus. It's probably for automation purposes. Ride is here, and the loop is here, and also the other loop is here. I actually probably didn't send this to the hats bus because when I'm low passing the other hi-hats, I want this probably to be playing without being low passed. So yeah. Alright, for the perk bus, for the hats bus, sorry. Yeah, just really some gain adjustment, and I pushed this up just a bit to give it a little more high end overall. And I pushed the gain down because the level of the hi-hats was a bit too loud altogether. For the perk bus, it's being low passed, so basically, or yeah, low passed. So this is for transitions. If I want to, for example, take all the hats down together in terms of frequency, I can do that with one filter on the perk bus and sending all the hi-hats there. So even the hats bus sent here. Now that does it for the perks. I think the claps are left, yeah. So we have some claps here. I'll start first with the reverse clap. I usually like to use the reverse clap, and this is a tip I got from my friend Max Brayman. I like to use this to help make the kick clap balance a bit smoother. So I play the reverse claps right before the actual claps, and this is what the clap sounds like. So as you can see, the panning, oh sorry, yeah, I've panned these as well. Center, and this is to the left, center to the right. It helps give a bit more I guess presence to the claps, and makes the transition and makes the balance smoother between the kick and the clap. And the claps that I've used, the actual claps that I've used for the track are a combination of two, actually three, okay, yeah, so three claps, and the first clap sounds like this. Pretty long clap from Vengeance as well. I shortened it a bit because, again, the full thing was a bit too long. The second clap, again, VEC. I actually, yeah, I pitched this one up because, let's see, yeah, because the actual stock sound didn't sound good to me, and it sounded off with the other claps, so I had to pitch it up a bit slightly. The third clap is from my friend Dennis Peterson, and this is what it sounds like. Oops. Yeah, I like this clap a lot. So yeah, now going to the mixer channel for these. Again, this is mainly for volume automation. This is the EQ, again taking out the low end, a bit taking a little from the mids and boosting a little from the high mids, or the beginning of the high end. For the long clap, some compression, some strong compression actually, and yeah, again some EQ taking out the low end. As you can see, I take out the low end on almost everything. Again, some gain adjusting here. I felt like the high end of this clap was a bit too much, so I put a high shelf here, taking out some of the high end smoothly, and again taking out some mids because the mids were a bit too much again. And for the other claps, again, just like the long clap, yeah, this one boosting the high end really depends on the clap, but yeah, this is what I've done for the claps. And I have a clapless here where again I boosted the overall level of the claps. They sounded good together, but I had to make them a bit louder. And also for the drop, I had to give them a bit of an extra push because the mix is really busy then, and they didn't come through too well. So I had to give them an extra boost in the drop, the climax. So this is for the perks basically. Now we move on to the basses. This is where it starts to get interesting. All right, just a second. Yeah. So the intro bass, which I've used for the section from the kick to the breakdown, basically. Yeah, from this. So this is what the bass line sounds like on its own. Alright, this is obviously without the sub bass. I put the sub bass in a different pattern to have more control. So this is the bass line, standard, I guess a modification of a rolling bass line. So I've used swing, as you can see on the bassline notes. Usually swing is applied on notes for perks or basses that come on the second or the second or fourth beats. So in this case, you can see that the second and fourth I've delayed them slightly. It gives a bit more groove to the bass line, and also gives a bit more energy and makes the bass stand out a bit more. So let's see what it sounds like again. I'll just solo this layer. Yeah, I'm not much of a make your own preset guy. I do make my own presets sometimes, but it's not really my strength. I think I've used this from the Definitive Collection sound bank from Silent from FSS. So yes, I modified I don't remember what I changed actually, but I definitely did change the preset a little bit. So it has some pitch modulation to give it a bit of punch in the notes. So as you can see, there's a nice attack on that. And yeah, let's take this off. Some compression on it. I actually don't like using any of the stock effects on Silent. I prefer to have my own, to use my own for better control. So I've used my own compression here. I don't really like using any fancy compressors or anything like that. The FL compressor does it for me, so mostly. So I've used medium compression settings, long compression. And for the attack, for the EQ, it's really standard, nothing fancy, just taking out the low end and boosting the high end. That's it. The preset sounded good to me other than that. Side chaining, again, as you can see, the ratio's set up pretty high. So I'd say this is medium strong sidechain settings. Because, you know, as you can see, they're all triple notes, or notes are all stuck together and they're all over the place. So you need to have good control on that for the kick to come through. And I think these settings are pretty much what I used for the other basses. I'll just play them individually. Yeah, this is again same bank, Silent once again. I kept the distortion because I liked how it sounded, but again, everything else is off. And for this one, I used even more distortion from Homicide. Um, for Homicide, I usually just play it by ear. Um, I I just play the pattern and change up the settings until it sounds good to me. So I've used these settings here. For the EQ, again, I took out a lot of the high end on this bass because the distortion gives it a lot of extra high end or white noise sometimes. So you have to balance for that by taking some out. And a dip in the mids because the mids on this bass were a bit too strong. Yeah, pretty nasty. Again, sidechain, almost the same as the other basses. Now for the third bass. Alright, so yeah, for this bass, again, I think it was the same bank, Definitive Collection. Again, kept the distortion, just the distortion, left everything else off. For the compression, I used the micro warmer. It was recommended to me by a friend, and he gave me actually this preset and told me just to use it. Sounded good to me, so I kept it. I don't know what, I really don't know what's happening here. Um, but yeah, so yeah, again, boosting the high end because it wasn't enough, taking out some mids to clean it up a little bit, and I put some sample delay on this bass because the other basses were a bit in the middle, so yeah, we're a bit in the middle, so I had to give some more side strength to it, so I put some sample delay on this, yeah. And let's see what it sounds like again. Yeah. So I panned it to the right again to balance out the sound after I put the sample delay. And just the side chain. Again, just like the other basses, nothing fancy. And the basic concept I use when I choose basses, and actually any sound when I layer, is texture. So I tend to use sounds of different textures to give it to build a pretty strong sound, diverse sound. So I felt like all these basses work together pretty well. And as you can see, some of them are high basses, you would say, and some of them are mid basses. I think this one, this one is more of a mid bass, especially that I've used the lower octaves here with the notes. So fills out a bit with the middle between the sub and the high basses, the first two. Now the fourth bass is not silent, it's Gladiator, I think, yeah. Yeah, so I've used that. Oh wait, sorry, I take out the automation. Yeah, just a second. This one is really just about the punch. As you can see, it has a really strong punch to it. I don't really use Gladiator that much. Maybe used it maybe once or twice ever. But yeah, I really like this preset. Has a lot of punch to it, and a lot of the punch would be gone without this bass, as I'm about to show you. So it's pretty punchy so far. Let's take this one out. So as you can see, it's really gives attack to the bass line to make it stick out. So yeah, just a bit of a boost of the high end for that extra presence, and taking out the mids because I don't really need the mids from this bass line at all, actually. So, or the lows or anything. So again, yeah, pretty basic sidechain as well, just like the other basses, nothing fancy. Now yeah. So these four basses I sent to the bass bus here. Just a second. Yeah. And again, I use just a bit of a gain boost here for the overall sound of the four bass lines together, or four basses together. I used a glue compressor which is a great alternative to the SSL compressor. This one is called Cytomic, the glue, and I just used the preset from there that sounded good to me, which is guitar or bass, funk pick. So yeah, just to glue them a bit together and give them a little bit of extra punch. That's a lot of punch that's in the bass line, but can't get enough punch. Um, yeah, and overall, it seemed to me that the basses had a little bit too much high end. Well, way high end, so 10K and above. So I took just a bit out, around 2 dB, as you see with this EQ here. And this is again high pass. If I want to high pass the basses, in transitions, again, build ups, drops, anything. So yeah, this is just a high pass filter. Now for the sub bass, yeah, pretty punchy, but at the same time has a lot of low end. So for the sub bass, there's just an EQ, a low pass this time, because I really don't need any of the high end from the sub bass. The other 4 basses take care of that. This here I thought was a resonating frequency, so I took it off. Yeah, so took that off. This one here I don't need. And I boosted here because I felt that this area gives a bit more presence to the sub bass, or in a way balances it more with the rest of the bass layers within the context of the track. So I boosted this area here. Again, some just basic gain adjustment. This is a high pass now. Again, transitions, etc. And a sidechain. Now the sidechain settings for the sub bass are, I think, stronger in terms of ratio than the other basses, because I really don't want even the slightest bit of a sub bass note playing on a kick. So I put the ratio up all the way. Threshold is not too low, but it doesn't matter really. Oh yeah. So yeah, I made this bass myself. Pretty easy to make, honestly, sub bass. So yeah, it's a combination of pulse waves, I think. Yeah, H pulse, and saw and sine. So they're all cranked up all the way. 8 voices all over. Yeah, put some distortion from put on overdrive, 100% wet. Adjust the amount from here. And yeah, it sounded pretty good to me. It balanced out with the rest of the basses, to be honest. So yeah, again, just a bit of release. Everything else is down except the sustain is all the way up. And this is the bass, the 4 basses and the sub bass are all sent to another bus, which combines them. And this has some final EQs. These are just fine tuning. Probably for some more resonating frequencies or overall EQing, and again a low pass just in case I want to control all of these basses together. Now we move on to the pads. Let's see here. Yeah, let's move on to the pads. First of all, we have a must for me is using the bass pad. This bass pad actually is a modified version of the one that is also in the Definitive Collection sound bank. I use that bank a lot. So it's a modification, and basically with some glide on it, some portamento, lower cutoff I think I put, and yeah, I think that's about, and yeah, higher slower attack, so the notes fade in instead of just cut right through fast. Excuse me. So this is what it sounds like. Just a second. Sounds pretty good. So yeah, this bass pad, I used it in the breakdown with the other pads, and I'll show that to you in a minute. This pad has a lot of low end, so I had to take a lot of it out pretty sharply with a high pass filter here, and I don't want the highs for this bass pad, so I also put a low pass filter here. These are resonating frequencies, I think, or areas for the bass pad, so I took them down just a little bit. And for the no need for sidechain, obviously, because this pad just plays in the breakdown. Again, low pass or high pass depending on where in the track it is. So in a build up, for example, or in a drop, depends. And again, a friend made this preset for me, so I really don't know what's going on here. But yeah, this is a compressor, and it compressed the notes of the bass pad so that they all have the same volume. Because usually the main problem you face with pads is that, especially one note pads, is that each note has a different volume, and so they need to be compressed to have the same volume altogether. So this is for the bass pad. Now we move on to the other pads. Just a second. Yeah. All right. So this pad, as you can hear, has almost no low end. Strictly the very high end of it is kept. And I made this myself again, I think. Yeah. And I put some delay on it because I felt like it has doesn't have that much presence in the track, so silent delay will do. Just some ping pong delay with basic. I didn't really change the settings much here. And this pad I mainly used to give drive to the breakdown. It is a sidechained pad, as you can see, and it's the only sidechained pad in the breakdown. So let's see what that sounds like here. Let me just show you. Oops. Yeah, I'll just play that pad. So yeah, it kind of pumps the breakdown through, and this is what it sounds like with the rest of the pads. Yeah, so as you can see, it sounds pretty good. Now, what I used for that is, again, this one I copied the preset from here to here, so it's the same one as the bass pad, I think. And some delay. I love using delay on pads. Now, I make my delay presets myself, and sometimes reverb as well. This is where I'm comfortable with delays. So classic delay I feel is a really strong free plugin, which you can find online by just simple Google search. Basic digital delay. I don't know why I used ping pong here, but I think it's mono delay. Yeah, well, whatever. So yeah, it's basic delay, quality set all the way, high cut at about 100 hertz, because I don't want any low end of the pad being delayed. Um, this is before the EQ, that is. And also, uh, this is the standard high cut at about 15K. And this delay is mainly in the middle, so if you'll hear. So as you can hear, the delay is mainly in the center, not being sent to the sides. This actually isn't doing anything. The ping pong delay in this plugin doesn't do much unless you change the panning of the delay to either side, left or right. So it doesn't matter here if I have it on or off. It's just on by default, I guess. Um, yeah. So for the EQ, took out everything below 750. And these three dips are because, again, as I've done before, I felt like a bit of these regions is still coming through even though they should be out, so I took them out even more. And just a boost of the high end so that it's more present when it cuts through the sidechain. So it cuts through the rest of the pad layers and you can hear it. And obviously the sidechain, which is the reason I've used this pad. Now we move on to the next pad, movement pad. Now the main purpose or aim of using this pad is to just give a bit more texture to the other pads. So basically, the other pads are mostly saw pads that don't really have any kind of texture to them. So this pad just adds a bit more texture to them, and this is what it sounds like. So really subtle, as you can see. Use the compressor to make it come through a bit. Some EQ to boost the high end, as that's the bit that I want from this pad, the silkiness that you just heard. And also filter, again, for automation purposes. And this pad is also sidechained with the sidechain pad. Now moving on to the other pads, the main pads and the breakdown. I used three main layers, and as well as the pads that I just mentioned, but the main layers are three, and these are again, I think, straight from the FSS sound pack definitive collection. Again, they're modified, so the cutoff here obviously is automated, and I changed up some of the settings here as well. And this is what this pad sounds like. Alright, so pretty warm, atmospheric. For this pad, just compression again. What I used is basically just not too strong. However, the gain is not notched up because I felt that it needed a lot of gain to come through properly, this specific layer. As you can see, I usually leave these settings as the default settings unless I have a specific problem that I need to fix with the compressor. Then I usually just play around with them until it sounds right. The EQ for this pad, pretty messed up. So basically, first of all, it's just a high pass to take out the low end, and then it's mainly dips in the mids because the mids in this pad are very muddy, so I had to take down a lot of them. So these three here are for the mids. These are resonating frequencies, so let me just show you what these sound like. Alright, this one. Yeah, there we go. So I usually do this on all my pads and even my leads, plucks, basses, sometimes even, and reverbs especially. I look for resonating frequencies because they can really make a mix muddy if you don't take them down. So what I do to find these is just make a new band. So just like that, make a new EQ band. Set the Q to the maximum right here, and then just go hunting, go looking for these frequencies. So for example, that's one, but I already have a dip here, so that takes care of it. And these are just for the high end to boost the high end of the pad a bit. So pretty basic. The sidechain that I have here is not actually in the breakdown. Only used it in the drop because the pads are playing in the climax, the drop. So I sidechained them to go along with everything else in the drop. For the second pad layer, we have another pad, I think also from the definitive collection. Again, obviously modified. So this is what it sounds like. So this one has slightly different notes suited to the nature of the pad. However, it does sound a lot like the first one that I just showed you right here. So for this one, what I used is, again, a micro warmer. I think I copied the same settings as the bass pad or the sidechain pad because it seemed to work fine on the pads, so I just used it for most of them except for this one, obviously. EQ, again, take out the lows, mids, take down the mids just for a bit, and boost the high end a bit. Now, some people say that you shouldn't take down the mids so strongly because it makes your pads sound a bit weak. However, if you layer enough pads, then the layering actually just makes up for the mids you're cutting. So I'm cutting the mids from all these different pads because I have about 4 or 5 layers in total of pads. So with that many pads, you get a good mid range, even if you cut you severely cut the mids on each individual layer. They still add up, and it gets you that perfect, not perfect, but that balanced mid range that gives warmth to your breakdown. Again, sidechain for the climax when the pad plays with the rest of the track. And I think for that third pad here, I think it's Nexus. Just a second. Yeah. Nexus standard pad. Took off the delay and the reverb. Again, I don't like using stock settings, stock effects from these plugins, from these VSTs. So I took off the delay and the reverb, and this cutoff is automated instead of just using a filter. Now, standard EQ. Actually, just let me show you what it sounds like. Okay, so this I think is the biggest pad out of all of them. It has that really big white sound, and I use that to fill the sides mainly. So yeah, again, EQ here. Again, these are probably resonating frequencies. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, again, resonating frequencies here. Mids, standard mid dip that I usually do, around 400. Again, another mid dip because I felt that it needed another dip. More resonating frequencies here. And finally a boost in the high end to give it a bit more presence. Again, delay. I didn't use delay on this because I already used delay on this one, as well as this. Not this. Okay, I used on one pad, and again on the third pad, and I felt that was enough. So yeah, I don't overdo delays on pads or anything really. So yeah, just the standard delay again. I think the same settings as the sidechain pad, just a higher. No, same. Yeah, I think I just copied the preset from the sidechain pad. For this, I used another compressor because I felt like the compressors that I've used before, the FL compressor, didn't quite work for this pad. It was a bit too much. So I used this compressor for a change, but it's not that different from the standard FL compressor anyway. The attack is 15, minus 27, so medium, I guess. Slight, not too much compression, just a little bit. And the gain is up to 3 dBs. And again, sidechain for when the pad plays in the climax. Now we come to the bus. So the standard, I just route all my pads to the bus here, except this one because this one only plays in the breakdown, so it's not that big of a deal. And yeah. So all these are all these pads except for the moving pad. This one obviously not, it's different. So all these are sent to the pads bus where I have another EQ just to adjust some final settings. I took out some more mids even here, but only from the middle, because when the piano and the leads come in the breakdown, even in the climax, they needed a bit more space, so I had to take out some of the mid information for the pads from the middle to give room for them. And you can obviously do that just by choosing mid side here instead of left and right. And again, a filter for the high passes and low passes overall, instead of having for each one. And the reverb. Okay. Now for the reverb, I always use separate reverb for my pads and my plucks and my leads and everything I use reverb on. That's really present in the track, so not effects, for example, even sometimes effects actually. But yeah, I use a reverb send, so these pads are sent to the reverb here, and I use the same reverb for all the pads. This one doesn't really need reverb. Yeah, yeah. But they're all sent by different amounts, as you can see here. So one is a little too much. Yeah. And the reverb, I always EQ my reverb sends to take out a lot of the lows. Again, the mids and boost the highs. And I sidechain my reverb sends. So if you've seen my tutorial that I've posted before on how to sidechain your reverbs using reverb sends, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, please feel free to check it out. And I always use Arts Acoustic Reverb for pads. Pretty big settings. I use the standard ambient dense long preset, which you can find if you go to factory. Input defined for synth lead. First one here. Yeah. So medium delay, actually pretty long delay, but I usually even go up to 8 or 9 seconds. Pre-delay is set to 75, so basically that's the time it takes for the reverb to come in, I believe. Attack and spread, as you can see here, maxed out the room for big reverb. Low cut is off. I don't really need the low cut because I have an EQ. And I don't really need the high cut either, actually, because again I have an EQ, but I don't have a low pass here, so I just did it from the reverb at around 11,000, a bit less. And as you can see, the settings are pretty straightforward. It's a modified version of this preset, but the actual real preset sounds fine. And again, sidechain, as I mentioned, for the reverb send. And now that does it for the pads. Let's go with the plucks. Alright, now first of all, this flow pluck is in the intro. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I use this in the intro, and I made it myself. Put some distortion on it, standard. Let me see what it sounds like. Yeah, so pretty big reverb. Nice delay on that. And this is what it sounds like in the context of the track. Just a second. Yeah. So that's a really long reverb on that. Sorry, really long delay on that. Yeah, use silent made it. I think yeah, combination of saw and HQ pulse. Yeah, and for I use delay obviously, but for this I panned it so that it gives a white ping pong sound, as I mentioned. The rest of the settings are pretty much straightforward, as I mentioned before on the other sounds. EQ here, uh, take out the lows, dip in the mids. So I guess you probably see by now that I use a lot of the same settings on most of my channels. The basics are just take out the lows and make a dip in the mids if needed. Sometimes it's not. And these are just adjusting the sound to how I like it. So each sound has its own sweet spots, I guess. You boost them, you cut some of the bad spots and boost the high end. And again, compression here to make it come through and to balance the sound of each note, because again, as I mentioned, plucks and leads and pads, one note pads, have different volumes for the different notes, so this compression helps even them out. And this designer here I've used because it gives more presence to some stuff that you can't fix with any other plugin. So I've tried using compression to make this pluck come through a bit more or more present in the track. Didn't work. I've tried using bit crushing, didn't work. Tried using a lot of other stuff and it didn't work. So this is basically my last resort. And what it does is that if you just push up the attack a little bit and the sustain about the same amount plus or minus, it'll just automatically make your instrument come through more, and this is the total gain for both. So if you want to adjust this even less, it's fine. But yeah, let's see, 1 point. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So this kind of takes this knob here, gives a push to your sound overall, both of these knobs, and also sidechain. I sidechain almost everything, as I mentioned, and I sidechain the pluck. However, the pluck is not too strongly sidechained, even though the ratio is all the way up. It's medium settings, I guess. The threshold is not too low, so it lets most of the pluck through. However, I do sidechain it to keep the groove of the song and not to have the pluck floating on the top of the track in terms of clarity. So this is for the flow pluck in the intro, and this is, let me just show you real quick what it sounds like in the intro. Just a sec. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I have a separate reverb on a reverb send for the pluck here, and yeah, the reverb is set almost all the way up. No, sorry. I used vintage reverb for this. It was recommended to me by, again, my friend Max. He gave me this preset as well. It's a modification of the chamber, clear chamber preset, I believe. And it just sounded nice on the pluck, so I kept it. Some compression because I didn't feel that the tail of the reverb was coming through as well as I wanted it to. It sounded too dry in the mix, so I compressed the reverb and I pushed it a little bit up so you can hear the reverb properly when the track is playing. And again, sidechaining always, not too strong, but yeah, definitely there. Next up is, let's see. All right. I'll stick with the order here, with the ARP. Where's the ARP? All right, yeah. Another sound that was played in the intro was this. In the mix, this is what it sounds like. Alright, so let's cover that first. This is, as you can hear, it's bit crushed, I think. I made that myself again. Again, put some distortion from Silent. Overdrive once again. Cutoff is set a bit low, as you can see. And again, I use pitch modulation on almost all the Silent sounds that I use to give it more attack. And for this, again, the delay, again, left ping pong. The rest are straightforward, as I've mentioned before. Compression to make it come through, and for the volume of the notes. And the EQ, pretty basic, nothing fancy, except for, well, just a boost in the high end. And bit crushing, as I mentioned. Again, this bit crusher is free. It's a bunch of plugins. There's delay from the same company as well. And I find it to be very useful. It does what I want it to do, so no need for anything fancy. I used bit crushing to give it a bit more high end and some more distortion on top of the one I gave it from Silent. This one, since I've only used this plug in transitions right here before the main beat, there's no need for sidechaining because it doesn't really play with anything else, so it's not really worth sidechaining. Now for the piano in the breakdown, let me just show you what it sounds like quickly. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't sound too strong on its own, but it works for me in the middle, in the mix. Again, it plays in the drop, so it's a different melody though. Alright, for the piano I always use Nexus. I try to switch between different presets. For this time I've used the Power Grand. Again, took off the stock presets from Nexus, and I panned it slightly to the left because it seemed that when I hit the higher notes on the piano, they were slightly panned to the right, so I had to balance them by slightly panning it to the left. And for the piano, I have used a lot of effects here. So let's see here. First of all, it's a filter for the build-up. Standard low pass, as I mentioned. Delay, again, standard. Ping pong to the left. Compression, again for the volume of the different notes and for the attack of the sound as well, for it to come through clearly. And as you can see, the EQ is pretty messed up. Now, piano is probably the instrument that has the most resonating frequencies. So as you can see, there's one here, a few here, and all of these are basically resonating frequencies. Taking out the low end, I boosted the high end a bit, and again boosted the highest end, I guess. Now, this is additional EQ for resonating frequencies because the notes that I've used in the build-up are different than the notes I've used in the breakdown. So here, sorry, just a second, yeah. Yeah, So as you can see, there are a lot of resonating frequencies there. However, I only want this EQ to come in when these notes play, because otherwise that's just over EQing. So if I have these on, even when the other notes are playing, then I'm taking down frequencies that are fine because they're not playing. So there's really no need for that. So I only turn this on in the build-up when the notes that have these resonating frequencies are playing. So as you can see, I've automated this to come in. So let's see, I'll show you. So it's off right now, and as soon as it hits the build-up, it turns on, and after the drop turns back off. After the build-up turns back off. Side chaining for the drop, the climax. Again, just like the pluck, light side chaining, nothing fancy. Just so it can groove and balance with the rest of the elements that are being side chained. And in the later part of the track, when I have the piano here, it sounded a bit loud in the mix with the rest of the elements. So I actually put an EQ to drop the gain just a little bit, and this is just being OCD. I mean, this is only like an 0.4 decrease in gain, but it works for me. That's how I like it, and I've just gotten used to it. Now, for the lead, the main lead, I got a lot of questions about it, and it's honestly nothing fancy, but I'll do my best to try and explain it. Now, let's just hear first what it sounds like. Okay, so sounds pretty big, pretty good. Big reverb, delay. Now I'll take you through it quickly. First, I don't remember what bank this is. It might be the FSS one again, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I just kept the EQ from the preset because it sounded it actually helped, so I kept it. And I took everything else off, modified a little bit with the pitch, and I actually changed up the EQ a little bit as well. I can't remember if I changed anything else, but I probably did. So just nothing too fancy. Straight up EQing, as I mentioned before, for resonating frequencies and mids, taking out the low end, boosting the high end because this is the main focus of the climax, so the high end has to be prominent enough. And I took out some of the really high end because it sounded a lot like white noise, so which wasn't really necessary. Let me show you what it sounded like. Sorry, just a sec. Oops. Just a second. Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, that sounds pretty nasty, so I had to take some of it off. Again, delay a must for me. To the left, again, ping pong. The rest is the same. And sidechain, not too much because too much would be wouldn't make it come through. So I kind of just lightly sidechained it. And yeah, for the reverb, I apologize. I forgot to cover the piano reverb. So for the piano reverb, again, I've used Arts Acoustic. Bigger decay, longer decay this time. these don't really matter because I have an EQ here again, as I mentioned, and again, resonating frequencies and the piano reverb. As you can see, I'm pretty OCD about EQing. That's why I take a long time to finish tracks, I guess. And boosting the high end of the reverb, just so it can come through a bit more. And just like there was a build-up EQ for the piano itself, I actually had a build-up EQ for the reverb as well, just for the resonating frequencies of the reverb from the build-up notes. And again, sidechained, not too much, just a little bit. Sorry, back to the saw. Now, as I mentioned, it's only sidechained lightly, so we'll move on to the next one. Now for the drop, oops, sorry. Now for the drop, I have another layer come in, which I'll show you now. So this is the build-up. Alright, so another layer comes in the drop, and that's what it sounds like on its own. Alright, and I added this layer because that one layer that I've used in the breakdown simply wasn't enough in the climax, in the drop. It didn't come through too well, and I had to layer it with a different sound. And also, it sounded a bit too, I think, one-sided. I mean, I think it sounds central. Just a second. Yeah, it didn't sound wide enough for me, so I had to add another one, which is again silent. Different preset, but the same bank, I believe. I just changed up some of the settings. I don't remember which. But they're playing the same notes basically, so alright, so as you can hear, it sounds nice. It has a different kind of texture to it than the one that I just showed you. So when the two play together, they sound pretty good. They complete each other. Again, some basic EQing, nothing except taking out the high frequencies again because they sound a bit too much. Yeah, and as you can see, the curve here is pretty steep. Compression for the volume of the notes again, and some delay. Same settings, I believe, as this one. And sidechain, I think I've used the same settings as well. Yeah, same settings as the first layer. And they're both sent to a reverb. Again, reverb send. Arts acoustic. I guess I always use this preset and then modify it to suit the sound I'm going for. Resonating frequencies here, taking out some mids and low end, and boosting the high end to come through, and sidechaining the reverb send once again. I really like sidechaining. So I think that does it for the synths. Now it's time for the vocals. I think, let's see. So for the vocals, I used the acapella from Right Back by Yuri Kane, which you can find online if you look at the right place. So I loaded it up in SliceX, which is a plugin from FL Studio that slices up whatever you put in it, and it automatically gives you these markers, and each of them gives you a different sound from that vocal. So in the intro, this is what the vocals sound like. Just a second. Alright, so yeah, delay reverb as usual. So as you heard, there are the main chops, and there's this long chop at the end, which you can see here. And I'll show you where each of them comes from right now. So as I mentioned, there are different markers, and basically there's the pattern. First of all, I'll show you what the vocals sound like, what each vocal is playing. So the first bunch of chops are playing the main chops I just showed you, and then there's also the second chop, which is playing that last long sound. Alright. And as I mentioned, there are different markers, so. Alright. Now, depending on how, what you want to do with the vocals, you can pitch them up or down, and you can easily do that from here. So as you can see, I pitched some vocals up, well, some parts of the vocal up, and some other parts down, like right here. So originally, this one would probably sound like, but in the track it sounds like, so I pitched it up, as you can see. And this one, I believe, is the same. Oh, no, I pitched it up as well, right here. Pitched it up about 300 cents, so that's 3 tones. And what I used on them, nothing special. EQ, resonating frequencies, boost the high end, delay as well, clef and ping pong, as I've shown you before, compression to make it come through a bit more, and for the balance of the sound. And this is just to make them cut through the mix a bit cleaner and a bit and more. So I used this transient designer and boosted the attack on it and the output gain. And sidechain, of course, so it can be in balance with the rest of the groove, with the rest of the elements. This is for the first vocals, which is right here. For that long one, I used EQ again for resonating frequencies and take out the low end, boosted the high end, and I used delay 2 for this. I believe the settings, I took them from a friend of mine, don't remember who exactly. Again, some compression for balance and attack and coming through. Again, the same transient designer to give it a bit more attack and more presence in the mix, and the filter. I thought that the unfiltered vocal sounded a bit too much. Let me just show you. That sounded a bit too much to me, so instead of taking high end from here, I just filtered it with a low pass from here. So yeah, and sidechain again, just like everything else, nothing special. And then I bust them, these two, to this, and I put another filter on them, just in case I want to filter them down during transitions, as I mentioned. I boosted the gain as well, of both together, and I actually also wanted to give them a boost in the drop because they didn't come through quite well, so I automated a boost to come in in the drop, and you'll see here that it's automated as well to come in the drop, and as also gave them another boost because the first one wasn't enough, and since this knob was already automated, it was just easier to make another one. And for the reverb, again, Arts Acoustic on a send, as I mentioned, both of them are sent to the send. Again, EQing for the resonating frequencies. As you can see, they clean up the mix a lot, and boosting the high end as well. Again, the same preset, just modified. I always use this preset. Some compression to make the reverb cut through a bit more, because it didn't do it for me. And of course the reverb is sidechained. Now let's move on to, I think this is it. Oh no, let's do some of the vocals in the breakdown. In the breakdown there is a bunch of vocals playing. Let me just show you what they sound like in the track. Okay, there, from here, I believe. I'll just play all the effects that I have in the breakdown and then go through them one by one. Alright, so there's a bunch of atmospheric effects going on there. The rest of these are just sweeps and random stuff, you know. So first I'll be going through the vocal effects, and then I'll go through the other atmospheric effects. For the vocal effects, I like using subtle background vocal, let's say vocal clips, and I got these from the Sirens. Basically, the pack is called Siren Vocals by Vila, I believe, and this is vocal effects of Blur, as you can see from the pack. And what I did for this was basically automate the I wanted the filter on it, and also, as you can hear, it plays in the center, I think. Yep. So there are some more vocals. What I did for this one was, I believe, just an EQ, just for resonating frequencies, and some compression and some filtering. Another vocal clip that I have here is this one. And as you can hear, this goes from right to left, from left to right, I believe, because I automated the panning on it. So as you can see here, I automated it to go from left to right, and you'll see that right here. Alright, so just to fill out the sides during the breakdown, I just put an EQ on it and some compression. That's it. No need for sidechaining in any of these because they only play in the breakdown. There's a third one as well. They're all from the same pack. And I also have some compression and effects on that. And this is what it sounds like. Now, as you can see, I automated the panning on that from right to left just for it to be different. And I sent these to a reverb right here, a send. Let's see which ones. Yeah, so 4 are sent, and for that I used a different preset this time. I don't remember how I found this, but it's from the stock presets in Arts Acoustic. Again, some EQ. Yeah, this is crazy. All these are resonating frequencies in the different vocals because, as you can see, I've sent 4 different ones. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So as you can see, there's room for a lot of resonating frequencies. So I had to take them all down, and I boosted the high end just for the reverb to have more presence. And I sidechain. I actually was it was sidechain, but I took it off because these only play in the breakdown, so there's no need for a sidechain on the reverb. Let's see, where's the 4th one? Alright, so it seems to me that I didn't actually use the 4th one. I just found it here, but I can't find it anywhere in the playlist, and I don't hear it anywhere in the track, so I probably ended up taking it out. Now for the 5th one, yeah, I didn't use these either. All these are just vocals that I had but didn't end up using, so there's no need to go through them. Now the rest are mainly just noise effects and sweeps and crashes and cymbals and all that, so they're pretty straightforward. I'll just quickly go through what I use for the sweeps and all that, what I do, basically just a short idea. For all the sweeps and crashes and stuff like that, I usually just end up taking out some low end, just basic EQing, as you can see, and really just make very minor adjustments on the high end if needed. Usually I don't really do anything other than that. Depending on where I'm using the effect, let's say if it's in a transition or in the middle of the breakdown or something, I may put some reverb and delay on it, but I usually don't. But for crashes, I usually do tend to put delays to make the transition smoother in using the crashes that I use in transitions. And really, that's about it. All these are sweeps and effects, and just let me go through that back breakdown effect I had here. Alright, so this one, as you can see, I automated the panning as well. So it goes like this. From right to center to left to center again. And I did put some reverb on that right here. It's sent to this one, which is pretty long. Compression again to make the tail come through a bit more. Boosting the high end, and side chaining for this because a lot of the effects that I use are during the beat, so I tend to side chain that as well. And this is from a pack called I believe Waves Effects, or Wave Alchemy, I think, or Siren. I don't remember. I don't know what the full name of that pack is. Anyways, there's another effect right here. Which plays throughout the whole track. So if you take a look, it's all the way through, plays all the way through the track. And this one is from Wave Alchemy, I believe. Yes. So this one I found to be quite nice sounding in the track, and this one is just filled with reverb and delay. As you can see, I have some delay on it here, some EQing, compression, bit crushing. Without bit crushing, this is what it sounds like. Not too different, as the dry and wet knob is set to low, but I did really low actually, but I found that that extra bit of distortion on it makes it come through more. And this is just a filter on it. It has its own reverb right here, because the settings are different than the one I've used here. Again, some compression and some EQ and side chaining. And yeah, that's about it for the general flow of the track. Basically, everything else is just generic, I guess, in terms of sweeps and cymbals and all that. Just delay, basic delay and EQ. Now, I just want to mention a few things in terms of the techniques that I've used in the track, and I'll also just quickly go through the how the track happened and how the idea came to me and all that. As you can see, I use pretty much the same EQing styles for almost all the elements in the track. It saves a lot of time for me, and it also makes my workflow pretty fast to some extent. The only major EQ adjustments I make are the resonating frequencies for pads and plucks, and especially vocals and piano, and sometimes basses as well, and kicks sometimes. So really, it depends on the sound, and just boosting of the high end or taking down the high end, or doing the same for the low end, just depends on the sound. So really, I mean, if you want your stuff to sound clean, and if you want every element to have its own space in the mix, you definitely need to go the extra mile and I mean, EQ properly, take your time, don't under EQ, but at the same time don't over EQ. Now basically for the how the track happened, Uh, for this one, I started with the melody, with the pad melody right here, which I've already shown you. Yeah. So I was just, I was just playing guitar one day, and I had these chords on my mind, and I was actually gonna turn them into a song on guitar, but I started playing the chords, and I just decided to try and put them on a pad and see how they would sound. Obviously, it wasn't all these chords. I developed and improved on them, but the idea was on guitar. I put them on a pad, and they just sounded better to me with all the delay and reverb I have on the pads. So I turned it into a trance track instead. And yeah, I just improved on the chords that I had until they sounded like an actual progression rather than just a bunch of random chords. And then I started building the drums. This is actually the first track that I've done that I've used 100% of the sounds I did myself in terms of I didn't use anything I did before. Even the pads I've used in different tracks were in other tracks were different. So I'm pretty proud of this track in that aspect. The kick, everything was done from scratch. Didn't really use any sounds I've used in previous tracks, like I mentioned. So after I came up with the chords, it was just a matter of time. I just came up with the drums, looked around my samples. I came up with the drums, put the hats, made the intro, and when that worked out, I moved on to add the supporting melodies, which I've shown you already. So, for example, the pluck, which is right here. So these are just in the intro. Just icing on the cake, I guess. You just put them on top. And these, really, this is how the track happened for me. After that, it was just a matter of coming up with, as I mentioned, the other supporting melodies, the breakdown, putting some atmospheric effects in, doing the sweeps. And after that, I was just thinking, what direction do I want to take this track in? I mean, in uplifting, you don't have insane room to maneuver. I mean, you could use plucks, you could use solids, you could use long leads like the one I used in this track. So really, it's sort of a standard now. But I was deciding what direction I want to take this track in, and I thought, well, why don't I reference some tracks? And I started looking for some tracks to reference or to be inspired by, and I just turned to my all-time favorite trance track, which is "One Wish," the Daniel Candy and Mark Anders remix by F Boint, and it was like, yeah, this is where I want to take this track. I instantly knew what direction it was going, and immediately I just started working on that long lead that I've shown you right here. This one. And also, it was I took some influence from Dionysia by Juventa, and yeah, so really, it just really came together pretty smoothly, to be honest. And it has a really different feel than the rest of my other tracks, which again I'm pretty happy about because diversity is good, no harm there. So yeah, I hope you guys benefited from this somehow, even though I went on for about an hour and a half now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I was clear about almost everything. I'm sorry if I took a little too much time with some things, but I'm OCD like that, so I apologize. And please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll definitely get to them. And let me know if you have any other tracks of mine that you want me to give you an overview of. And please do share and subscribe if you feel like it and like the video. And let me know what you think in the comments if you do not have any other questions. So next time, hopefully I'll be doing a video on one of my other tracks or another tutorial. Let me know what you'd like in the comments. And till next time, guys, have fun and take care.